Good morning. My name is Rolando Rosales. I have the honor today to share with you about PulseWave. Many of you have been received the units, and I'll just give you just a quick background on myself. I've been involved with the nitric oxide world. It started off with arginine, with a publicly traded company in the pharmaceutical realm called United Therapeutics. We were the first one to put out a commercial version of arginine called Heart Bar. And I had the pleasure of working with Dr. John Cook. I worked with him, collaborated with him in one of the first availabilities of again, an L-arginine product. It's since then evolved, but this is the book he wrote. You could probably still get these on Amazon. It's called The Cardiovascular Cure. He's no longer at Stanford University, but it really became my calling. We started about 20 years ago, right? A year before 9/11. And anyway, 2001. So it started in 2000. In that time, I went to a trade show with him, actually there at Stanford, and I met a gentleman named Will Sotka, who had a device called a CV Profiler. And it really just completely changed my world. It just rocked. And at the time, I was most impressed with a company that had a biophotonic scanner. It measured your antioxidant levels. And I thought they were the smartest guys in the room because they were testing people's carotenoids at the time. And what it did was, I noticed they at the end of the day, they were offering or promoting, selling a dietary supplement, basically vitamins that would increase your antioxidant levels. And at the time, you either scored red, yellow, and green. And so that's where I got the idea from Will. And we had about 40 people there. And we started testing ourselves with this very elaborate machine. At the time, it was about $40,000-$50,000. And I worked with a gentleman here locally, Dr. Joe Prendergast, a leading endocrinologist in the peninsula. And he ended up getting a couple of these devices. And they were, again, in the thousands of dollars. And it was a way to do arterial screening where people didn't have symptoms, because most of his patient population, well, actually most of them, were diabetic or pre-diabetic, and or also had some other endocrine type challenges. And I loved the way he thought. And I'm going to start with just how personal this was for myself. My father at the time was 62, and he, Dr. Joe, in one of these talks we were doing very early on with, again, nitric oxide products, he was our spokesperson for the publicly traded company, United Therapeutics. And he said, "Hey, Rolando," my dad's name, he said, "have you ever been screened for your arteries?" And of course, my dad's 62, and at the time, my kids were really young, so he was a very hip grandpa playing soccer. He was a professional soccer player, and my father has 8 brothers, 8 or 9, and he's the only one that immigrated to the United States about 60 years ago. But anyway, Dad got on the machine, and lo and behold, the first time my dad had nothing to say, my dad turned out to have the arteries of an 80-year-old. Now, my father had no high blood pressure. He probably had some cholesterol. He didn't have a gut because he was still running back then, again, playing soccer and so forth. But it was a wake-up call from my father. And, I have, like many of you, I have zero street cred with my father. I still owe him for college, you know what I mean? It's a biblical thing, no man could be a prophet in his own land. And certainly, all Dr. Joe said to my father, he said, maybe you should start taking the product your son is promoting. And at the time that was called Heart Bar. And it was a bar, but then we ended up making it into a powder, orange flavored. And since that time, ladies and gentlemen, what that demonstrated to me, and that's why I do it this way. It's not something I'd like to share unless I'm able to do it in person. And that's part of the work I get to do. I love what I do, and I do it with love. This morning, I was speaking with Maureen, she's on as my guest. She got a benefit from the product already in just a few short weeks after being in Portland. But my father ended up testing himself every 6 months or a year until that biological age became, or at least matched, his chronological age. So you're going to hear through my training, I will side always to be very, very conservative. So you'll hear me repeat it a couple times because that's where I really want you to lean in and take some notes. And I set this up this way because most of this training is contextual. Literally, I could just send a video on YouTube and you'd sit down, take the measurement, and then that's that. I want to give you all the feeling, the context of how this and why this is important versus just content. Content is important, but at the end of the day, we're talking about an experience. So let's go back again about 18 years ago. And Dad had the wake-up call. He couldn't believe it. And then my dad just started being compliant. Now, we did a lot of other things with him as well. But to this day, my father will be 80 in December. He was going to come to me at convention in April because he doesn't mind getting on stage telling his story. But unfortunately, he's got to go to a wedding in Costa Rica on my behalf. But any meetings we do here locally, I live here in the peninsula, or there'll be some days that I'll get him out and about. But Dad, since that time, has now he's going to be 80. Now I tested him in December. That's his birthday, so he'll be 80 in December. I tested my father in December, and my father scored a 4. And he's probably closer to a 3 now, but you'll know what that means in a moment. But basically, my father turned out to have the arteries of a 50-year-old. Not bad for a guy who only 18 years before had a chronological age of 62, but a biological age of 80. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt in my mind, none whatsoever, that by now my father would have had at least 1 or 2 episodes or be medicated for some type of vascular issue. I also proud to report at 80, and my mom's going to be 83, neither one of them are on one med, not one. And what we've been able to do is every year on his anniversary, around his birthday, he will get screened and he will monitor where he's at. So talk about at the very beginning, when people ask me what business I'm in, I usually just tell them I'm in the anti-death business because everyone's into anti-aging back then. But now I can say that my father has added life to his years and years to his life. And that's why my partnership, my fellowship, my partnership, my whole involvement with Trinant and the platform they've built with this powerful product line and a compensation plan to reward people. And of course, reward the people that may not want to make an extra money, but they want products at a fair price that aren't available in pharmacies or Amazon or what have you, that's evidence-based. That's where this became a responsibility for me, to let the world know how powerful these products can be. Now, having said that, I am not guaranteeing that to anybody here. I am not using my father's true testimony. And by the way, the testimony has been documented over the last 18 years with all the products he's taken. And every time we're doing a screening for him, we're able to validate the results. And I cannot guarantee that to anybody, nor can you. I started off with this saying to my father, well, I didn't say, hey, Dad, how would you like 30 or 40-year-old arteries? He had no idea that the light at the end of the tunnel would have been a train about to run him over. Because that's the thing about heart issues and cardiovascular disease. It doesn't have a symptom. Like I said earlier, my father was an athlete. He's blown out his knee. Actually, I think all of us did. We all blew out our left knee. He blew out his ankle. He did some other thing. Well, that had inflammation. But heart does not have inflammatory like we would have it. That's why it's considered the silent disease. My father was a ticking time bomb. Well, all of us are in one matter or another based on risk markers. and it is a preventable situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you a video, and this is available to everybody here. This is going to be sent in your kit for those of you that have the technology. So let me share my screen here. Some of you saw this in the conference. Unfortunately, it was only aired once, but here we go. Enjoy.
In the time it takes to view this media, your heart will beat approximately 160 times. Your body has about 6 quarts of blood. Your 5.6 liters of blood circulates through the body 3 times every minute. In one day, your blood travels a total of 12,000 miles. That's 4 times across the U.S., from coast to coast. There are 100,000 miles of blood vessels in your body. Your heart beats about 35 million times a year, equal to 2.5 billion times in a lifetime. Your heart will pump 1 million barrels of blood in a lifetime. That's enough to fill 3 super tankers. Give a tennis ball a good hard squeeze. You're using about the same amount of force your heart uses to pump blood out to the body. Even at rest, the muscles of the heart work hard, twice as hard as the leg muscles of a person sprinting. Worldwide, 17 million people are touched by heart disease each year. By 2020, 20 million will die from heart disease annually. Number 1 cause of death in the US, leading cause of death in Mexico, 4 million deaths per year in Europe, 1.4 million deaths in Russia annually, leading cause of death in China. Every 20 seconds, a person in the US has a heart attack, and every 34 seconds, a person dies from one. Many who had no prior symptoms, but sudden death. When someone dies from heart disease or stroke, that death is more than a statistic. It's someone's husband, wife, mother, father, child, friend, or neighbor. The loss is a personal tragedy. Are you tired of hearing the same old health claims? Worried about your health or of a loved one? Sick of hearing this is what you need and you'll be better for trying this product? Ready to see and hear how you can upgrade your circulation and cardiovascular health? In 1998, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was awarded for the discovery of the role nitric oxide plays in maintaining vascular health. Nitric oxide, a molecule that keeps the arteries open, permitting smooth blood flow in the artery walls.
Okay. Okay. Well, that is going to be available. We may change the branding at the very end. Right now it says GOpulsewave. And many of you are still getting requests for the product, for the machine. We really had to roll them out very quickly. It went even better than we had anticipated. And that's because, again, it's an invitation to a new possibility. So let me go ahead and start with the training now. You'll be seeing some other videos as well. But I'm going to start off with, again, I talk about context versus content, but I do need to give you some content so you have an idea of how this actually works. I'm going to first start off, ladies and gentlemen, with just setting again, just some suggestions to all of you. I know we all come hopefully from some sales or marketing. Obviously, you're promoting your Trinot business, and you're taking the products and you're becoming a product of the product. So first things first, this is not an opportunity. When we start talking about PulseWave, I literally recommend that you have 2 business cards if you're going to do this as a business. And there will be a further training that I'll actually do on or about the convention. We're going to probably come the day before, or maybe on that Sunday when there's some free time. It's about 2 hours, and I'll explain to you how you can build your business and expand it with this type of technology to healthcare professionals and the like, because they're all looking for ways to measure. So let me tell you what the technology is all about in just simple terms. How many of you always have had, in fact, someone texted me this morning because they said they didn't feel well last night. It had nothing to do with the product, but just a friend of mine. And I said, well, have you taken your temperature? Turns out she was 102. Now, she didn't have all the telltale signs. Was it a flu? Was it something she ate? Is it stress? You know, a myriad of things that could be going on. Well, see, that's what really Western medicine is all about. Western medicine, all medicine, is really, you want to find out what it's not. If you go in, they're going to take your vitals, they're going to take your metrics, they're going to take your blood pressure, they're going to take your temperature, maybe draw some blood, and they're going to try to define what it's not and versus what it is, because you have to bring it down. So, ladies and gentlemen, a simple way of looking at this is really like a thermometer. It's a biometric device that will define for your suspect, and I'll explain that in a minute, and how they're actually doing. Are they running hot or not? Especially because I want you to write this down. This is an asymptomatic interruption. It's truly disruptive technology. Again, some of you, we felt that way, or you have children, and there have been times where, you just don't know what's going on, but you first have to identify what it's not. Give me 5 seconds. I actually drink my techno this morning. Anyway, so sometimes it's powder. All right. So we want to find out what it's not. And so asymptomatic is different than symptomatic. The way I define most medical doctors, and I love them, I love doctors, some of them have been partners of mine for years. I've worked with them for years, I should say. And a lot of them are symptomologists. They're really looking at symptoms first, and then they'll try to find the treatment to best do that. I mean, we have the best healthcare in this country. If you break your leg or something that is of a crisis situation, if you have your first heart attack or stroke, well, you definitely want to run to the hospital and save your life. But that's very different than the prevention model. This is all about prevention. But how can you prevent something without knowing where you're really starting from? So the first thing this is, again, it's a discriminator, not from discrimination of racism or something like that, but it discriminates because it defines a value for the person that you're screening. And the first thing I do, and I recommend to all of you, and I'll repeat this throughout, folks, I don't chase sick people. I've been looking at the posts online. Yes, heart disease is the number one killer. And beyond that, people that have, again, other risk markers like diabetes or history of heart attacks or strokes in their family, basically cardiovascular disease, smoker, obesity, blah, 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 all those things. But it's like a nephew I have right now that's serving in Iraq. Sorry, he's in Qatar. He signed up, he's a soldier, and I appreciate his service to his country. He loves his country. But, people that go out to these things don't think it's going to happen to them. They don't really think that they're not going to get hurt, maimed, shot, hurt, crippled because they're in a war-torn, environment. And that's how people think these days. They don't think it's going to happen to them. In fact, if I were to ask you, and I unmute everyone, and you just raise your hands, how many people met someone in your family, friends, neighbors, your community, that the last person you thought that would get a heart attack was the one that had it? I mean, think about it. There are people that eat organic, think well, live well, and have, seemingly everything happening for them. And they, expire earlier than what you would have thought. And that there's some people that can eat milkshakes and cheeseburgers and bacon with every meal, and they make it to a ripe age of 70, 80, whatever it is, without too much, challenges or without medications. See, folks, it's personalized. It's personal. So I talked about opportunity versus possibility. Ladies and gentlemen, I come from a belief system that I don't give opportunity to anybody. I only create the possibility for them to take a choice on their life. That's all I can technically do. Even when someone asks me about the business, and I'm not building a Trinot business, I'm helping others do that, I don't offer the opportunity. I offer the possibility for them to take that choice. By the way, what is there to think about? Money, extra time, extra life. Really got to think about that. That's really what it amounts to. But possibility in the context of screening is pulse wave is all about running radar through your body, a sonar. And look, and pulse wave is not new. Pulse wave has been around ages. That's how they measure the integrity of pipelines of the gas and oil industry. PG&E was ripping up my front of my house. Those are all pipes, and they run signaling. When here in California, we have we all have smog checks, catalytic converters on. What do you think they're running at the smog check? They're running pulse wave, because if there is a breach in the muffler, the wave will come back separately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a visual, folks, and I want you to work with me here visually, okay? And this is something you're going to actually download to any of your suspects. Another aha moment potentially is, folks, many of you say, I have prospects. I have a person in India. I have Joe Blow went to my website and is interested in the product. Folks, they're not prospects. They're suspects. With PulseWave, because it's disruptive technology, everybody's a suspect. If they have a pulse and they're vertical, they qualify. What would basically ask them is if they want to go ahead and see how they're doing inside. If they say, no, I'm not chasing people who are sick. I'm actually working with people that want to go over and beyond where they're at. That's our market. Write this down, please, before I go to this. We are dealing with worried well. I see Eric here and Thule and my buddy Letty's there. They're worried well. They're worried about themselves, not from a, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? But they worry. They take care of themselves. And what happens is, with this technology, it'll define what has been successful, what is not, because it's not one size fits all. It's almost unfair. It's Mother Nature. Some people do, a whole lifestyle, and yet they succumb to, problems cardiovascularly and other things. And they're all interrelated, by the way. But suspect, for me, is anyone that has not been screened yet. Prospect is when they buy something, then they're the prospect. Then you can convert them, and they can upsell and become a wholesale or preferred customer. Now, the pulse wave actually creates lifetime customers. This is very different than everything else you've done. It's very almost counterintuitive, because you're not selling. You're actually sharing and giving them truly life-saving information. Now, you think, going back to my story of my dad, do you think I was interested in signing up my dad? I was only interested in knowing what's going on with my father so that he can make a shift in his focus, in his priority, which to this day, 18 years and some work and some compliance and convenience by taking powders. Now he takes the techno. He's able to have the results and be able to measure it. We measure the difference. Huge, huge, huge upside. Now, we're at a shoreline, okay? And let's just say you take your shoes off and you're right by the shore, okay? As you're looking and you got your bare feet, you're in the cold water, especially here from California. And if you're in Hawaii, that's totally different. And as you're in the water and you're seeing the wave coming towards you, hopefully not that hard, but the wave breaks simultaneously. It means at the same time, you're feeling the wave, or you're seeing the wave come to the shoreline, you feel a pull because your feet are right there at the ocean. What the ocean does, and the ocean is really representative of the heartbeat. That waveform is the heartbeat of our home, of Earth. The ocean, blue, beautiful blue ocean, it's got to have the right pH, right alkalinity, or in this case, acidity. And it's constantly moving. And you just feel that boom, that pressure coming in, and the undertow. That, ladies and gentlemen, is your systolic and diastolic of the Earth. And that is exactly how our body to nature is simultaneously right now, and you saw that video, what it doesn't show, be in the next one, is that we really are a wave. There's a pulse wave happening within us. It's a frequency, it's a life. And you know, our blood doesn't actually circulate like it does in pipes. It actually rotates. It actually spins through there. How is it possible? Think about it. I'm standing here. I'm only, what, 5'9". As this is pumping, the blood is making a force going all the way down to my feet and toes and coming right up to my brain. And this is all happening. That is the waveform that is happening within your body. And we don't, maybe, I'm not saying all of you, but you know, people just take it for granted how majestically, how beautifully we've been designed. So as we talking about the waveform and relationship to nature, when the waveform, so you got one wave, it's literally like that goes out from the pressure of the heart, and then you have another wave that literally just kind of goes like this, and it goes against the other outbound wave. So you have what's called a reflective wave. Another way to say it in physics is if I have a ball, and right now I'm about 5 feet, so I just grab a ball and I let it just drop to the ground, okay? And the ball will obviously rebound back to almost its starting position. That, again, is a waveform. Now, if I throw it hard, like if I put force to it and it hits the ground, obviously it's going to hit further or faster than the position that I threw it in. So let's just say it's at 5 feet and I throw it hard, it's going to bounce faster. That's exactly what's going on in your arterial blood flow. And that's just a simple way of saying it's not something you would ever share with people, but I wanted you to understand some of those dynamics, that it's actually there and it's really cool. All right, we have people still coming in, and let's see here. We're going to go ahead and share another video so you can basically see that dynamic. Okay, let me. We have several different ones, so I'm going to show you both. So I made this one in time lapse where you see the reflected wave. This is an easier one. The other one didn't do quite well. So this is what, again, you have your systolic and diastolic. That's the 120/80, which was considered normal. And so what you have is you want to have actually that reflective wave to come back slow, elastic. It gives the time, because in between each beat, your heart actually rests. But over time, and for various different reasons, that actually becomes more age. So we just used the 47-year-old, that the reflective wave is coming up faster and higher. So the dichrotic notch, which is the first notch up at the top, actually coming in a little bit faster. So this would be consistent with like a 3. And you'll see that in a moment. But that's what the arterial pulse waveform looks like. Again, this is not something when you actually see the meter running, it's calculating all that dynamics of the waveform. Okay, so I wanted you to see this a few times. And now I'm going to go to an 80-year-old. Okay, this would be consistent with a number 6 on the device. So what happened there? Okay, come on. There we go. Much faster. See that? Boom. This is stiff arteries from the descending aorta, which is one of your largest ones. So when heart pumps, the reflective wave goes all the way out where it bifurcates here underneath the aorta. Now see where that waveform is? It's clearly on the left-hand side. Okay? Okay, so I wanted you to see that dynamic. I have somebody here in queue or waiting. Oh, well, we lost them. Sorry, make sure I want to get that off. Okay, so what I did was I drew it up here. Again, this is not something you want to basically share with anybody, but just so you understand the content. The first one is a number 1. The device scores from 1 to 6. It's using photoplasmography, so it's using the finger. So some of the other devices that are out there use a brachial device. Okay, can you please keep your questions to the end there, folks? Sorry, I don't have my assistant helping me today, so I'll make sure I'll get to it, okay? But I know it's going to be a little bit harder to see. My apologies, I'm moving my computer as close as I can there. But the key is you're going to see this in a document in your package. That's a 1. This is a 2. So 1 is consistent for under 30 years of age, from 20 to 30. A 2 is under 40. So 30 to 40. Got the dichrotic notch a little bit higher, and the artery is a little bit more, and that would be normal for under 40, by the way, but here is under 50, okay? And you see a couple more waves coming back. So this is consistent. When someone scores a 1, 2, 3, 4, and respectively, by the time they score a 6, then you saw that visual of the pulse wave. Now we have, I'm not going to actually launch this until April, but I actually have videos that you can actually see and calculate. It's pretty cool. But we want to make sure that we are compliant with law, and you're going to know that today when you see how I'm covering this training. Okay, so so you're already asking me questions on techno. I'm not going to cover techno today. Maybe I'll do it towards the end, folks. Please, let's stay focused on PulseWave. That's why I only wanted the operators to be here, but I think some people got the word out. So, and this is definitely not for your prospects, suspects, or guests, or brand new people. It's only for people that have the PulseWave. In the past, I've actually charged for this type of training in person. Decided not to do that, but there is a value in charging for that, and people really pay attention and they do that. So the system is going to be set. You're going to have a phone number where you could text and email, and I check it to the people that have already ordered the devices, and then we'll send you a Google or Dropbox link where you can download the videos and all the materials that you'll need to have a successful business with PulseWave to build, of course, your techno business and beyond. Okay, now what I want to go ahead and do is start getting into the meat of the matter from the context. Okay, I have a system called IEEO. Another way of saying is I use the PulseWave. I talk about PulseWave, but I demo PulseWave. So the first thing that we need to know about this technology is IEEO is like a bad country song. Is the first one is an interruption. This is definitely an interruption. And you will have a form, and you can modify it as you want. I made this one. I shouldn't show the name, but you can't really see it. But it gives them their name, their email, their phone number, what race they are, You're asking if they're rested, do they feel stressed, are they taking supplements? We have over 270 of them. I still haven't had a chance to sort these out, but we wrote down their scores, and we're using this for posterity for really kind of an observational study, because we had a lot of people that scored very, very well, best that I've seen in a long time, because I've been to other even medical conferences and whatnot where we do the screening, and many people don't score well. But I was really surprised. Not really. You're taking some phenomenal products and it just validated results. So a lot of times people just want to eliminate the doubt. Please write that down. Some people go into this thing going, whoa, how am I doing? So they're a little bit, worried. Now, in other countries, such as Latin America and Philippines, where I've been doing this for the last couple of years, it works very different than here, because we actually charge for the screening. We charge anywhere from $1 to US dollar or to $5. And let me tell you something, the line goes around the block because they are a paid prospect. When was the last someone paid you to prospect? But we live in a very abundant country. And so this is such a low price point that it's not something that you would charge with. With some of the larger machines that I sold in the past, in the thousands of dollars, the chiropractors and naturopaths and nurses and people like I called myself at the time, my business card said Pulsewave Evangelist, because I'm not a doctor. Now, I do formulate nitric oxide products, but what really drove everything I did was based on this interruption. Now, believe me, say to you folks, I know many of you want it. You don't need the device to build your business. But what it does, it creates a whole new possibility. So I actually did screening at EA Sports, which is literally 5 minutes from my house. I did training with trade shows, and I do all the time for people, let's say firemen or police people, policemen. I'll do it as, and I've done a lot, so many health ministries for, different religions and so forth. I did one for Seventh-day Adventists. I think my friend Susie's on here, and she knows we did literally hundreds and hundreds of screenings where people got a chance to see where they were at. Yep, Susie's on. And again, it was really fun because, again, it's a wake-up call. So let's talk about this interruption. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't have to do this with most of you that were in Portland, but because you had heard about it. But remember, we didn't even get to say it so much on the stage. I did a test on Craig, and most of you didn't even know what it was. Now, when I say this interruption is I get the no, N-O, out of the way. Now, no also means nitric oxide, but this part I'm talking about a yes or no question. So let's just say, let me see who's active here. Becky. Hi, Becky. Have you even screened? Have you had your arteries checked today? Do you know how old your arteries are inside? Just kind of go yes or no. Yes or no. Yes or no.
Yes.
You have? Okay, great. Well, but she could say that, but I guarantee you 99% of the population don't even know what you're talking about. So I always get the no out of the way. I say, well, that's great. Now, let's just say she would have said no. Now I can screen you. We have a technology here. It's a pharmaceutical medical device out of Taiwan. We have the exclusive here tonight. Go ahead and sit down, fill this thing out. No worry, no charge. It's usually about $5 or $10, but we'll go ahead and get you started there. And that's how I do the interruption, because I'm not saying, hey, how would you like to see how old you are inside? Or like, how would you like to have 20-year-old arteries? None of that matters. And technically, well, it's illegal. All we could do is say, hey, we can offer that for you. Now, interruption really becomes, when it becomes disruptive, I shift that to permission marketing. So I see Becky's got her camera up, and I said, Becky has now given me permission to talk about her, because she don't care. She doesn't know what I'm trying to do in terms of, like, she doesn't know what Tronant is or techno. And by the way, when I do this, I don't have a book and I don't have the techno right on the same table, because she's going to look at it and go, Rosales is here trying to sell me something. No, I'm here to serve you. Normally there's a charge. There's a few minutes to take of your time to see how you're doing inside. Does that interest you? Yes, no, or maybe?
Yes,
Does that interest you, Becky?
of course.
Great. Well, wait a minute. Now people don't want to know. Some are like, okay, I give up. I surrender. Folks, if Becky was in a wheelchair flagged with 2 nurses in an oxygen tent that just had a quadruple bypass, what will this tell her that she doesn't already know? Really? Folks, Becky, do you mind being my my suspect?
Sure.
Oh, come on. You got to be more excited. I could ask someone else. Come on. I mean, we're talking about your life, so
Yes.
I hope you're cool with that. What is your age range?
70.
7. Wow, you don't look it. Great. Okay. So if she screams, we get started. What we're looking at is literally 70 years of wear and tear on her heart and where she's at. And again, the interruption is you ask the question and you invite them to that possibility. And folks, I'm not going to ask Becky to buy, sell, or join nothing. It doesn't matter in that moment. She's not even a prospect yet. She's a prospect when she hands over something that she wants because I've got it. Folks, PulseWave is not a question if they need techno and the rest of the Trinot products. It's a question how much they need. We offer, write this down, what shifts everything now. I'm not selling, and if you're selling, you're doing it wrong. You're overdoing it. We offer what people need until she has her own self-talk, and I'm saying this as Becky would be my suspect, until she determines what matters to her, nothing else matters. I could do a whole data dump, show her every video in the world, tell her everything about Nobel Prize winning science, and none of that will make sense to her until she knows where she's at and relative to her biological age versus her chronological age. Thank you for telling me your age. Now, it's also part as because you're now PulseWave operators. I have this information, literally, this is worth gold because she's going to tell me everything that's going on. She gave me permission to. Very rarely do I have someone, I mean, basically it happens most with Asians, be honest with you. Asians are very, very special. You got to be very quiet with them. You got to use an alcohol swab and, on the finger, and you got to sit them aside and never tell the score in front of anybody, including their wives or husbands. They're very, very guarded. I think it's called saving face. But needless to say, I tell a Latino, forget about it. As soon as they start getting into this forum, they start telling me a whole thing about their life. They start getting, ladies and gentlemen, emotional. That's why it's context, not content. If they don't get emotional about their own life, I don't know what will. And by the way, that is a fine line between being honorable with people, honoring where they're at, and manipulating it. And do not do that with this technology and have us know that, because that would not be good with Trinot or with me. But again, I'm not to come down on you because I'm here to protect the whole. The truth is enough. We don't have to make it more than what it is. Just serve people where they're at because we got products that can make the difference. The only difference is where they want to participate in their own health. By the way, who owns your health, Becky?
I do.
You do? Well, I think some pharma companies would think different. In fact, Starbucks thinks they own you because apparently they've got it down so wired that you have a caffeine deficiency. But I'm not going to talk about nitric oxide deficiency till the end because none of that matters. Many of you are talking always about the how or the what. Folks, this defines the why. Her why, not yours. The what, the how, the when, don't matter. You got to get to their why. So the interruption becomes, within the first E, is engage. I have her details in front of me that she gave me. And then we sit her down. And folks, this is it. This is the training. We always use the left index finger, always, unless they have a shunt or something within their arm. Very rare. That's like 1 in 5, 10,000. Then you would use the right hand, and then you have them put it across their chest. But you want them sitting down with their feet flat, sitting up straight, left finger, you turn on the device first. Okay, you turn it on first. Do not put it to their finger, because that, again, be careful with these folks. It's not warranted if it comes in 20 pieces. When you carry it around, I always carry it around my neck because I'm always screening people. But if you're carrying it around in your bag, whatnot, you know, sometimes people carry it in their box. Just take care of it. This literally can do thousands and thousands of screenings without problem. You need AAA batteries. It comes with 2 to begin, but I always have some spares there. So I turn on this first, left index. The only time you will have a challenge is if someone has acrylic nails and they're super long. Well, it won't even fit. It won't register. So I want you to see how that waveform is going there right now. Now, this is going to be super high because I'm standing and I'm talking and I'm moving. So it's going to have a real hard time calculating my oxygen. See, my heart rate's at 130. I'm standing, I'm rocking, but look at my oxygen, 99, okay? So the first one there is the oxygen. Oops, they're backward. Oxygen, then it does heart rate, okay? This is why you have them sitting down, and you want to do this generally in a quiet area. Like, you don't want to do it where there's a window or a lot of traffic going. You want them sitting down, and you want them to take off their cell phone or iPad or any of that. It does not affect the test, but what happens is the phone will inevitably ring. They're looking, they're doing. You just say, can you sit for 2 minutes? That's that. Generally, what I'll do is I'll run on a video, like one of the videos, so they can kind of look at it. And then, you know, they're going to keep wanting to look down. Just say, keep your eyes closed. Go to that special place if you want. And it'll just be a minute. That's it. That's where the engage comes in, is because you are now setting the rules. You sit them down. No slouching, no talking. I sometimes kid around and say, if you talk, I have to charge you double, because if they're talking, if they're moving, garbage in, garbage out. That's why we all uniform. If I screen Becky here today, and the next time she goes, let's say Thule or someone else screens her, we're going to do it the same exact way, sitting down, straight, no slouching. Now, the only thing that will change, and I noticed that just now in my heart rate, usually does go up at 110. I had coffee a little bit ago, but that does not affect your waveform. So these are the things that are like adrenal, stuff like that. If you eat a little bit as well, because the dynamics of your arteries. Now, I did have my techno. I take 2-3 times a day because of where I'm at. I took it a little bit ago. So the dynamics of nitric oxide takes about 20 minutes. I've been getting some emails, you know, I get a little bit of a headache, or my heart was some pressure in the heart. Folks, it's very safe. With that, I just decide to be conservative. Just take 1 to 2 to start, okay? Especially if they're on medication such as blood thinners, and they do want to be able to always manage and monitor their blood pressure, their blood sugars, if they're diabetic or pre-diabetic, and their lipids profiles. This would be done by a blood test. You want to just double check how those things are doing, because you are changing the dynamics, but it doesn't happen overnight. If Becky is my suspect and she's 70, I cannot undo 70 years of wear and tear. Okay, it's going to take some time, but the good thing is we can actually measure it. And that's what's key here, okay? So as we engage people and you have their information, they're gonna tell you what's going on. Now, I only ask about supplements, but I've had people actually start writing, my dad had a heart attack. Oh, this one wrote down, I'm on insulin, metformin. I'm taking Life and Restore. I'm just looking at someone, this one says no meds. This one said take on blood thinners. You know, they'll tell you what's kind of going on, what they feel comfortable with. So what you do is you grab their sheet, and what I do is I'll take the device, I'll take their phone or my cell phone, and I'll take a picture of it. Okay, or you can, that's where you have their phone number, you know, you have it there just to remind them, to memorialize it. But I'll write it on their sheet. So let's say this person scored a 3, okay? I'll write it in green ink, and I'll keep that there, and I'll say, okay, you know, we'll address this in a moment. But as far as engage, it's really like in the case of Becky or someone else when you have time, because you have them quiet for a few minutes. You know, I always ask afterwards, like, why did you want to get screened? I'm just curious. Why now? You know, and sometimes they'll tell you, you know, but it's just engaging their conversation of what matters for them and what is their priority. Again, I'm doing this in service to them, not for any other agenda or hope of sale or anything like that. All right, so right here, I'm gonna make a line, and this is where you take some time. And the key in this, ladies and gentlemen, so we have I, interruption, E, engage, the second E, the third, and the IEEO is educate. Now, when I'm educating Miss Becky as our suspect today, I'm not giving her a download about all that I know about PulseWave. None of that really matters. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to switch over to the video, and this is available to all of you. This is not available for you to give to your suspects or prospects. It is only for you, and there'll be another website that's going to be a thought leader website that we're working with Trinant. That'll be just a third-party validation where people could get information on it. You cannot buy a device, you cannot enroll and get anything else. It won't even talk about techno. We will talk about nitric oxide because that's called inducement. So let me go ahead and put this as a PowerPoint for all of you. And well, it's actually like a video. So sorry, that's what happened here. Uh-oh. Oh boy, what did I do with that? Okay, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened there. Oh boy. I'm trying to get out of that other end of slideshow. Yes, and show. Okay, there we go. Got to be smarter than the average bear here. All right. Let's go back to sharing. And let's go to this here, okay? Okay. All right. Well, that's also included in your package. I suppose I could just put that on YouTube. I don't do any of that, YouTube or Vimeo. We're a closed-in network, but there'll be a website that you'll be able to eventually, by April, I would say, that you could be able to, access that. There's some good languaging in there, but ladies and gentlemen, this is really about asking questions versus just doing a data dump. And if they're not willing to take the test, then don't have them do it. Or if they're already, medically managed to the max, it's kind of a nice to have, but really our market is the worried well. I'm looking at the people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s that really want to do better, that really above normal. So we'll go into that right now. On the educate, this is where it becomes more contextual about versus content. But this is the content that all of you absolutely have to adhere to. All the paperwork will reflect this. There's only 3 results. So I screened Miss Becky. Thank you, Becky, for being my Vanna White today, my model. So there's only 3 results that your suspect can have. There's only 3, right? 3, okay? First one is normal. Now, based on their age grouping, and it goes by 10 years, there is some play in the technology. All of them have that. Let me give you an example. If I get on a weight scale that I bought at Costco, it's going to give me another weight. I go to the gym, it's going to give me another weight. I go to the doctor, it's going to give me another weight, all within the same hour. They're all calibrated differently. Obviously, the doctor's one is going to be the more precise. But there's so many different variances that, just like your blood pressure, we're dynamic human beings. Moment to moment, what we're looking more is at patterns. So the ideal time to do screening is in the morning. Your blood pressure is definitely different in the morning than it is, say, in the evening. It can actually start going down if it's within normal, because you start slowing down metabolically and everything like that. You're preparing to rest, sleep, okay? Also, after heavy meal and things like that, it definitely would weigh it down, but it doesn't affect the score as much as you think. We just try to take all the variability out. And the reasons for this, if I score Becky and she said, well, she scored a 6 and she's not happy with her score, well, that has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the technology. And then she may say, well, I just ate, or, whatever, something stressful, work, politics, whatever it is, all these things that weigh us down. So sometimes that could be almost a validation of what's going on, but you want to take out the variability because you're controlling that. It says, well, you know what, normally the best time to do is in the morning on an empty stomach, but there's really no, what is normal, right? We're not taking a blood test here, so it's a dynamic test. So the first score is normal. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't say good, bad, or ugly, or that's good, because that is a diagnosis at that moment. All we can say is really normal, and normal based on their age group. So she would be in the 70 to 80, and so normal for her would be a 6, okay? The device scores between 1 and 6, okay? So that would be normal for her age group. So actually, because she's 70, it doesn't score a 7 or 8 or anything like that. So we just maxed it out at 6, which is 70 plus. Now, let's say, for instance, it's a different test subject. Let's say my friend Letty's in here. Letty's hard to believe, she's 50. Now, if Letty is 50, so what normal for her would be basically a 4, because that's 50, under 60, sorry. If Letty scored a 5, then that would be considered borderline. So it's one age group, one score above what would be considered normal. So let me give you a different example. Jeff Belleville, my buddy, lovely young man. Well, he's under 30 years of age, so normal for him was a 1, okay? And he scored a 1, and I didn't know what his age was. And I said, wow, you're normal. And he was like, oh. And I said, well, for your age group, well, wait a minute, how old are you? And he says, well, I'm under 30. Oh, okay, well, you're normal, okay? I thought he may have been older. All right, so, but let's just say Jeff scored a 2 or even a 3. Not uncommon. I actually see more of those with young people under 30 than you can actually imagine, way more. Now, Jeff's an extraordinary man that has the benefit of having a mom as a doctor and good lifestyle, but potentially some good genes there, family history. But if he scores a 2 or 3, that would be considered basically borderline. But really around 3 or 4, not uncommon that I test a 30-year-old and they score a 4 or even a 5. Ladies and gentlemen, they've gone from normal to borderline to abnormal. That is abnormal. So we do not use languaging such as bad. Oh, that's bad. There's no power, there's no juice in trying to scare someone or making them feel bad. Remember, sometimes this can be really nerve-wracking and we just have to honor where they're at. So it's normal, borderline, abnormal. Everyone with me? Shake your head. Give me a thumbs up. If you're on here on there, I want everyone's kind of like thumb up that you understand that it's normal, borderline, and abnormal. Those are the only 3 results. So what I want to cover contextually is that what that means from an emotional standpoint. All right, we have a great testimony just came in and apologize. All right. All right. What that means emotionally, if I test Jeff, who's under 30, and he scored a 1, he could basically be high-fiving himself, So the first emotion part from normal is generally could be like relief, like, wow, I'm not doing so bad. They eliminated some doubt. But really what it is kind of a pat on the back. They're kind of just saying to themselves, whew, not bad. Wow, I'm surprised or whatever. But they may not verbalize that, but deep down inside, they're kind of high-fiving themselves. Now, if I tell the suspect, okay, you're borderline, that's between 7 to 10 years older than your chronological age, your biological age is, 7 to 10 years older. Well, that would be like in an emotional standpoint, like a kick in the butt. Now, they may or may not tell you that, but all of a sudden, remember, ladies and gentlemen, all this is based on a mortality chart. Now, you don't tell them that, but that's what this is based on. 1 to 6 is a mortality chart. It's how you're trending. So really, it makes no difference whatsoever what they scored. The fact that they're willing to do it already says everything to you, that they're willing to make a shift, a change, a transformation, or an awareness to their life, no matter where they fell in that spectrum. Okay, with me? All right. So back to my test subject. He or she scored borderline, basically a kick in the butt, kind of like, better get on it. And then the third one would be abnormal. And that's really from an emotional standpoint, ladies and gentlemen, and they all are beneficial because it's all beneficial to them. It's their conversation or the conversation they're really not having about their vascular health, okay? And we refer everything to the heart, but it's really more than that, okay? Abnormal really would show up as like a slap in the face for them. Now remember, you're not slapping in the face, they're slapping themselves. They're gonna be In some cases, it doesn't happen often, but I'm just preparing you folks. Sometimes people get resented. Sometimes people get embarrassed. Sometimes people get like, when I was there in Portland, I made some friends that came up against it. They were like, wow, and there was nothing to say. It was just to honor them. I know of very few experiences in my life, ladies and gentlemen, where I can meet someone and they had that look, you know, the cross-eyed look, the arms crossed, legs crossed. Just, I'm not going to buy jack from you. You're trying, you know, whatever they were, their full guard was up. That you can connect with them in a way, um, genuine, that you really, their life matters to you. Where you're able to hug them. How often does that happen? Really? It doesn't happen very often. It does for me in my life and the people that have done this. It's really, it is such a blessing to have a connection with someone, because at the end of the day, it made an awareness that they didn't have. And keep in mind, whether it was normal, borderline, abnormal, they're equating what you're saying to good, bad, or ugly. But you don't say that. You don't have to. It's not necessary. And so where they fall, I'm going to address this now from the educate. Let me share with all of you personally that when I first got started, you know, I deep down inside, I almost was hoping, you know, oh, here's Becky, you know, or here's Jeff or whoever it is. You know, I hope not like, well, okay, it sounds terrible, but probably closer to that. Gee, I wonder if they score higher, then they're going to do more. And folks, that's furthest from the truth. And I've been doing this for almost 19 years with big equipment and you know, really expensive equipment and whatnot. And that's never been the case. You don't wish anything. You just want to honor where they're at. And the question that I'm going to present for all of you as part of your training, you'll be able to use every single time, no matter where they fell on that spectrum. So I used to think that the more, let's say, again, this would be emotional, more messed up or more, you know, out of whack they were. See, that's not medical. You know, whatever abnormal would be, it didn't have that effect. In fact, I found people like my father, that's not what drove him. He wanted to be a 30-year-old. He wanted to be a 20-year-old again. That's what drove my father, not that his mortality was in question, even though that is a motivator. That's one thing about this industry. It's recession and depression proof, but it caused him to take actions consistent with what mattered to him. And that's what we do here, because we aged him out. And here's the thing. So I have a suspect. They scored normal. And I would say things like this. Here's the question I want you to write down. Are you surprised by your score? Sometimes they are. Well, you know, well, congratulations, because I will congratulate. I always congratulate them on the first step with GOpulsewave, with Trinot, or whatever you call your company, okay? I always want to congratulate you, because I know that could be nerve-wracking, but just wanted to let you know this is where you scored, and relative to your age, you scored normal, so you're here in this range. But let me ask you a question. How old will you be in 10 years? Now, think about that, folks. Now, that's real simple. Becky, it's real simple. It's 80 years old, okay? But when you ask a 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old, heck, I just made mid-50s, and it went like that. And now you want to age me out 10 more years, but you want them to have that self-talk. So we have the person that scored normal, doesn't matter between 20 and 70. How old will you be in 10 years? Well, you know, the person says, well, you know, I'll be 40, whatever, 50. Okay. Well, you know, there's a lot of changes happen within that time, right? Where do you see yourself relative to the spectrum here, relative to your age? Where do you think your age will fall within 10 years from now? See, they scored normal. Remember, how many of you know this or have heard this? Subject X could be family member or loved one or friend that you've had, where they had their first heart attack in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I spoke with someone today that had their first heart attack in their 40s. And she called it up and she told me that. Now she's in her 60s. So you didn't even know you were barely surviving. But here's the point. what it is, it doesn't, I'm not going to let them do a victory dance and make a victory lap that they're normal, that they're off the hook. Because really what we're doing is we're trending and creating lifetime customers. Now, the question really amounts to is what's your plan? What's your strategy? Now, take a victory bow that what you've been doing is working. But remember, people didn't get their first heart attacks at 60 or 70. It didn't happen in the last 6 months. It started when they were younger. See, there's evidence of this, folks. There was a Vietnam study when they measured these poor kids at 19 years old who were already showing signs of arteriosclerosis because they had to do autopsies on them. Now, there's since know that because of the stress these young kids, these young lads had serving in war and dying, made their arterial system much stiffer, but they were already showing signs of advanced aging. So chronologically, they may be 19 plus, but their bodies are already representing, early plaquing and so forth in their body. And so let me just show you. The card. So I should I have the RDA mold here. So this would be consistent. Sorry, it's this one here. See that the arteries are nice and like Teflon City, nothing sticks. So that would be ideal for a 1. Of course, a 19-year-old should be scoring 1, but they were already showing things like this. You can hardly see it there, but there's some little gunk in there, little yellow. All that's starting to build up in there. So this was already long studied. Now, the same subject matter, he or she, they are borderline. So they're 7 to 10 years older. So where they would have scored a 1, they scored a 2. Okay. That's the same thing. So I'd ask them, okay, you're X amount years old. How will you be in 10 years? And you want them to say it. Okay. It's a silly question, I know, but I do it all the time. Well, I'll be, Y amount. Well, where do you see yourself? If you're already borderline now at X years of age, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? And that's where the realization happens, because folks, this compounds. This actually accelerates as you get older. Yeah, my metabolism is definitely not when I was 15 or 20 or 30. I'm in my 50 plus tax. Let's leave it at that. It's just very different. I now have 3 millennial kids and so forth. So, anyone that has daughters or teenage sons or just all that stuff, some of you have grandkids, boy, things change, there's wear and tear of life. And we celebrate that, but we just say, hey, if you're starting off at borderline, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And that's where you let them say, well, if I'm a 2 or 3 now, well, then I would say, well, I guess I'll be 4 or 5. Okay, relative to their age, that may increase unless they have a plan or strategy to have that be lower than their chronological age. Remember, we're talking about biological age. And the third and the last is when they're abnormal. And abnormal is a funny thing because sometimes it really catches people by surprise. They had no idea, or some of them already knew it, and they almost like resigned or from doing anything. Or they're taking, a lot of people that are taking medications will score a 2 or 3 or 4, but you'll find out they're taking medications to force their body. So the good thing is the medications are working. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that, but you'll meet a lot of people, even people you knew that they've been taking medications for years, you had no idea. Well, let me ask you a question. How do you feel on them? What else is your plan? Because you know what happens, ladies and gentlemen, once you're on a blood pressure medication or most of these, you need to hear this, folks. And here's where it gets to the nitty gritty. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not anti-doctor. I'm anti-pharma, but that's me, okay? And I made sure that my parents would never get on anything because we kept measuring it for them to be about prevention, not about coping. Western medicine is coping. You have blood pressure, you have this, you have that, take this medication, come back in a year. Now, I'm not saying that, and you cannot tell them. You have to have them monitor themselves, take responsibility for it. Like Becky said, you own your life, not the pharma. You have to take control of that. This is not a magic bullet. Now, if it can add more years to life and life to years, that's a good thing. But you still need to make sure that you cover your bases and you're not doing anything that would rebound your body or shock it in any way. You want to do it gradual because you didn't get to where you're at overnight, and you're not going to clear it out overnight. How many of us want a magic weight loss product that you drop 40, 50 pounds in like a month? Impossible. You didn't gain it over, the last year. Maybe you did, who knows? But you don't lose it over the last year. It builds on itself. So we have to prepare them to be successful. And you just gave them the goalpost. You told them 10 years. Now, my father, when he found out he was abnormal, the urgency stepped in. He said, uh-oh, whoa. And he definitely turned 5 shades of white. He didn't have a word for it. I want to add something to that story. About a month later, it was a little over a month. My uncle Oscar, not really my uncle, but was my dad's best friend. He's from Chile. He was kind of the playboy of the bunch. He played soccer, and he smoked a cigarette during the halftime. And during the second half, he went out onto the soccer pitch and he collapsed. And they all thought he was kidding. And they're playing soccer, and he was on the ground for a few minutes. And then they went to his side, and he had died of a sudden heart attack, thereby missing his 2 kids' graduation in high school, subsequent college, marriage, and grandkids. So folks, yeah, this is near and dear to my heart. I lost my sister 4 years ago to heart failure at 41 years old, and there's nothing I could do about it. We would have never known. 41 years old. She's actually my sister-in-law, but for all practical purposes, I've been married 31 years, and leaving two boys. So it hits all of us. It's a personal thing. But we honor people. We congratulate them for taking that first step. And you have to be aware that some of these emotions are there. Sometimes they surface, sometimes they not. But sometimes it's like a heat-seeking missile. That's the way it's just going to search them down, and it's going to hit them eventually. But you do this right, and it's only one right way of doing it. You let them be where they're at. It's not a question of if, it's when they want to get started. So let's do that transition. The final one is O, which means offer. And let me tee this up properly. Ladies and gentlemen, we all talk about the close in marketing and sales. I'm going to close the deal. I'm going to close the networker. I'm going to close the sale. That's the furthest from this. What the technology does is open people up to a new possibility that we invited them to take a look. And so the transition from where you just educated them on that spectrum, the next 10 years. So really, if they're high-fiving or slapping themselves or kicking themselves in the butt, you let that be. You invite them to consider what their strategy or plan is, so they're not going to have to cope with this later on. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, there's been thousands, this is no joke, thousands of people that have been able to shift their life, been able to do things because the awareness was there. The action item was there because we had a measurement. And that's exactly what happened to my father. It's actually a really cool thing because even people that don't like their score want to do better. So they want to come back in 6 months or 3 months and do it, or check themselves every year, or get other family that they're worried about involved. But the key is, even as they're aging, my other friend here, Michael, I don't think he's on today, but the last couple of days he was on, or 2 times I did this, he scored very well for his score. In other words, he scored normal, and he was happy with it. All I did was age him out. So where are you going to be in the next 10 years? You know what he said? I'm going to stay at a 1. Cool. I honor that. Well, what's your plan? And so we'll go into that in a minute. So that's a kind of a cool conversation because now he can take a picture of his score, share it with people, and he's a product of the product. Now, in all due respect, the tech only did so much because it's only been out for only a couple weeks. So there's been other things that he has done that's been successful. But in his case, he paid it forward because he's working with his dad. He's working with other people that are already in their 70s and 80s. And how do we bring back some of those years to life and life to years? That's what I'm talking about. That it's really, again, beyond the worried well. It's being able to pay it forward. All right. So the transition is this. Here's your score. I just want to do one thing, and this is part of what I talk with people. I say, okay, Becky, I just did your score. let me ask you a question. I'm just taking my temperature, my own pulse here. Was this scan of value to you? You know, I always ask that. I try not to forget it, but I always want to get a temperature check from someone, because that's where you're saying, hey, I just want to make sure I'm doing my job right, even though I didn't charge them for it. Was this a value for you? Now, if they say there's no value, then you're done. There's nothing to talk about. Very rarely happens, but you already know right there that they're really, oh, I just want to know, and yeah, I already know I'm messed up, and I'm on medication, and they're not ready. It's okay. Okay, this is not for you. Okay, not for you. This is really for people that are sexy. No, I'm just kidding, but I will say that. Just for the people that want to live longer and have a better quality of life. But that's okay. You don't qualify. That's all right. Now, I can say that and do that because that's my personality. I like that kind of truth and jest kind of guy. It is kind of a serious matter, but I try to keep it light. That's a personality thing. But now this part here, when we go to that transition, as I always say, look, I work with Nobel Prize winning science. I'm here to promote vascular health. We're really here about, now notice I said promote. I'm here to promote that, because that's the first thing I could do, is promote the fact that you just know what your score is. Okay, in their mind, good, bad, or ugly, but in our language, very, very straight, normal, borderline, abnormal. Doesn't matter which one they scored, and it really doesn't. Then we say, well, let me ask you a question. Now that you know where you're at, how do you want to handle this? What's your plan? Do you want to handle this passively or aggressively? And folks, I ask that of everybody. How do you want to do this? You want to handle this passively or aggressively? Now, this is not a yes or no question, or wouldn't it be nice if you had 20-year-old arteries? Yeah, I wish I had them. It's about the question. How do you want to handle this? Now, remember, I asked that whether they're borderline, normal, or abnormal. It's just where they're at. Now, granted, we didn't know that at the time, but when we asked my father, Rolando, how do you want to handle this? Of course, the other way he could have handled it is Dr. Joe could have put him on prescriptions or done all kinds of therapy, which would have been worth it, okay? But he elected to take control of this, and he was urgent about it, and it has not left his conversation. Excuse me. Now, he may not have it every day, but I know in December, or a couple of times a year, when he has something going on, he's had acid reflux and hiatal hernia and other, just things that happen over the years, and he'll want to check how he's doing. But he's not worried about in that sense, because he knows what he's taking is addressing that. So how do you want to handle this, passively or aggressively? And you just let them. Now, this is based on your budget. That's what I'll tell them right off the bat. It's based on your budget. So I'm not asking a yes or no, like, hey, we've got a special today. We've got the techno, and you need to take 8 of these a day, and blah, blah, blah. You don't need to do that. You just need to ask them what matters to them. That's the question, because they gave you permission to do it. You have their sheet here. Just how do you want to handle this, Becky? You're 70. Okay, that's your chronological age. I don't know where you fell in line with biologically. How do you want to handle that? How do you want to handle it, Becky?
Oh, definitely aggressively.
Really? Why?
I want to live life to the fullest.
What would that look like? I'm fuzzy and all that. You're 70. Does that mean dancing? Does that mean chasing your husband? What does that mean?
Means being able to be active with my grandchildren, travel, help people, experience life to the fullest.
I love it. Great.
By the way, my score was, it kept changing from a 2 to a 4.
Okay, that's normal. It's okay.
Yeah.
Things are moving along.
Yes.
So now you're basically showing off, because normally it'd be a 6,
No.
and now you're a 2 or a 4.
Oh, no way.
But at some point,
Had his history in the past. I really appreciate it.
well, good. Well, I appreciate you. And so in our aggressive format, we have other products. Now, let me tell you, folks, right now I'm role playing, okay? Becky, not only am I going to recommend something I take, but my family takes. It's based on Nobel Prize winning science, but its whole intention is to focus on arterial health. And if there was any other product out there, I would absolutely recommend it and take it. And I continually look, by the way. But I'm with a company that right now, literally for about $1.50 a day, passively, you can take 2 capsules a day, and we can address where you're at. Okay, and again, it didn't matter that you're 2 or 4, and we can recheck in about 3 months. But what's really nice with this program is it has some other brothers and sisters. See what I have right here. If you want to do this aggressively, I'd recommend the Life. I don't have my Radiant. Someone took it. The Vibe and the Restore. Okay. Now it's really based on your ability and your budget to get started. So I hear it very clearly. You want to help people, and the person you really need to help is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we have some packages that start at about $200 to $300. We have some other ones like I would recommend if you want to do this aggressively. Again, is there anything you need to be concerned about with your current health right now? Are you under any doctor's care?
No.
Good. Okay. Okay. That's cool. All right. Well, generally for aggressive, about 2 capsules twice a day. I would infuse the product I recommend people start is always the Life. And then we have some other products because all of our products are really boutique unique. This is plant-based. This technology is based on Nobel Prize winning science. So there'll be a website you'll be able to look, and you'll be able to learn more about nitric oxide. Again, that won the Nobel Prize in '98. But this will, assist you in capturing your score and maintaining where you're at. I mean, wouldn't that be something to celebrate? The next 10 years, let's say you just maintained it at 4. I can't guarantee that, certainly, but wouldn't that be something?
Awesome.
Because remember, you're at 70 now, right? 80? Well, how old will you be in 10 years?
80.
80, okay.
Goal is 120.
Wow. Well, I guarantee you, I know some 70, 80-year-olds that they may have made that chronologically, but their arteries were probably 120 years old inside.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what's happening on inside. Right. And so what I'd like to do, and then and this is how we do. Let me I would work with, like, say, Lisa Bautista or Letty or Eric, or there's someone here that's here, Andy, and I'll do the screening. I want you to talk to Jennifer. I want you to talk to Mindy. I want you to talk to my friend, my partner here. They'll get you started with the paperwork. We can just do this online. You need to know that when you do this technology, now let's pretend for a moment in this role playing, Becky, that when would you want to get started on this?
Immediately.
Immediately. So you better have product on hand. Very, very different. Very different, because they're going to be like, well, wait a minute. Well, I want to get started now. What's the phone number? Where do I get started? Okay. And so you're going to see this as we're in February's Heart Month, but look, every day is Heart Month. Every day your heart is working. Remember the video? I want you to see that again. And so you turn over. If it's just you, that's one thing. But if I'm working with someone, say it's Letty or Anna or Susie, I let someone else do the paperwork, and then I'll do screening. I'll just keep doing the screening. That's the role I play. But then you let them talk about, again, the openness, because they already have the score. They already know where they want to get started, and we get them started right away. But I leave them with this. Becky, I work by referrals. You got value from this because you told me you did. You probably know about 6 people that could potentially benefit from this scanning.
At least.
At least. Great. Well, we work by referrals. So I just want to welcome you. Let's pound, since we're on the internet. Pound. Come on, pound. Fist bump. Come on, pound me. All right. Well, we'll shake hands. We'll just shake hands, okay? Here we are. I'm shaking hands with you, okay? Or we'll hug, all right? Becky?
Yes.
I want to welcome you to the thousands of testimonials we have here at the Ternant family. I just can't wait to hear your testimony and the wow that we create here, because you'll be one of those wows. So I just want to congratulate you and welcome you to the Ternant family. And folks, there's the offer. That's how I leave it at. Welcome. Now you're already part of the Ternant family. Mm-hmm. And I just set her up. I set you up. It's all about the testimony. It's all about the wow. What's the wow, the whoa? What's in it for them? Because if you don't answer that basic question, that's even in business, you know, they got to know that they can do this, that it's for them, that you're in for them, that you care. And why not with a company that cares, that's putting a product line accessible for everybody. And at the end of the day, she just told me she wanted, what'd you say? Aggressive what? You said something before aggressive.
Um, I wanted
Totally. Huh?
I wanted the ultimate health for sure.
Okay, ultimate health. Okay, whatever. But see, that was the question.
Mhm.
Do I need to tell Becky now, oh, you could be 20 years old inside? No. Why? That's illegal. It's unethical. It's improper. It's just, hey, here's where you're at. You're teetering between 2 and a 4. Now, some of you that have the meter are going to continually test yourself. And by the way, when you're taking nitric oxide complexer like techno, it's going to vary. She may even go up to a 5 or a 6. That's not life-threatening. It's moving things around. You're changing the metabolism enzymatically to the inner lining of your arteries. So that's what's going to happen. You're going to release things into the wild inside the arteries. That would be normal for your age group, Becky. That's considered normal. Right now, you're probably around here, okay, thereabouts, 2 to a 4, okay? Maybe around there would be pretty good. But this is where, folks, I don't explain everything to them. I get them started first. You get them committed because they're already committed because they wanted to see how they're doing. I didn't have to drag her in there. That's why I prefer to charge. That's why we'll have it for free for guests when we start doing it. Someone sent me something the other day. They did like 45 screenings the other day. So the devices are out there. All it does is sort people out. Notice that. Sorts people out. Because at the very end, when the offer is there, we went through all these steps sequentially. You'll put your own infusion because it's not personality. This is all process driven. That what you're really doing is allowing people to understand where they're at, their starting point. Again, normal, borderline, or abnormal. They will internalize as good, bad, or ugly. And we allow them to get started and have success, which you're not. With certain groups, such as my amiga partner here, Leti, Latinos, Asians, we have a different way of looking at it too, because sometimes what they'll do is they'll do a order of products because they want you to come to their house. They'll bring in the people to be screened so that you could talk about what's in it for them. And again, they do it somewhat aggressively. I've done this very successfully in Asia. We lost count at 14,000 screenings last year. And that was charged. We had people actually making between $200 and $400 a month screening. That's front end money, not including back end money. And they're being charged $5 more for the younger brother of Techno. Techno is a brand new product. The other product beforehand wasn't as robust. But I love to layer things so we can get their commitment to start based on what they're committed to, not what you want to sell. But you set them up to be successful because how they start is how they're going to also promote it. So if you get started with, say, a $200-300 package and you get a few extra techno because you want to take it all, you know, great, no problem. You want to take the Rizzo Pure, all that's available, but it gives you the starting point based on where their availability is. And I have seen, I wish there was a different term for it, but if I'm going to upsell someone, it's because they're the ones that told me they want to do this aggressively, and many of them do, you know. And think about it, we're in a world right now, culture, where so many people need this, and yet some people have this dilemma, especially with our healthcare in this country. You know, do I eat this month? Do I cut my cable, or do I have my blood pressure medication? It's a reality, folks. The number one cause of bankruptcy in this country is still medical bills. Number one cause of bankruptcy. And most in emergency visits are blood pressure related. Number one issue in the world is blood pressure. Number one. And that's not just high blood pressure, it's low blood pressure. If you start adding on all the risk markers, I'm a recovering metabolic syndrome person. It runs on both sides of my family. That means that I'm preset to be a diabetic, but I refuse to be a diabetic. In fact, my father kept saying, I'm a recovering diabetic, and Bo, he's never taken anything for it. Nothing, nothing. Now, he's up there at 80, and last year he had a little bit of a scare, but hey, it's lifestyle. Hey, Pop, a little bit less red wine and less dessert. So these are the things that you can talk with people, because the products in and of itself are just get things started. They have to participate in making the choices that are consistent with what they say matters. Notice what I'm saying. I don't sell, sponsor anybody into this program. I enroll them to I show them the door and I say, you can walk through if this matters to you. Otherwise, hey, no problem. It's not for everybody. And and I do this with love. I mean, even though I just met them, because hey, it's their life. I know that Becky, just meeting her now, she could dance at her grandson's wedding. Wouldn't that be something?
Mhm.
Who knows? All I know is we can measure it, and we can measure the results, measure the difference, because it makes all the difference in Becky's life and that of the people that love her. All right. Thank you, Becky, for being my model today. Thank you for everybody. I'm going to go ahead and show you that video once again. And I'm going to give you a phone number here when the video is showing. I'm going to give you a phone number and an email where you can get with me. I know, let me just read one thing here from Mary Sue. Oh, sorry, it's private. But, well, I already blew it. All right, she went from a 6 and is now a 4. Way to go. In just a matter. Oh yeah, ages. Okay, let's do that right now, because this is going to be one of the questions that's asked. It's in the paperwork. All right. When you score a 1, this is under 30 years of age. When you score a 2, this is under 40. So 30 to 40 is a 2. When you score a 3, it's under 50. When you score a 4, that's under 60. When you score a 5, that's under 70. When you score a 6, that's 70 plus. Okay, so 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 under 30, 2 under 40, 3 under 50, 4 under 60, 5 under 70, 6 is 70 plus.
Can you adjust your screen?
Sure. How's that? Can everyone see that? Thank you for mentioning that. So 1 under 30, 2 under 40, 3 under 50, 4 under 60, 5 under 70, 6 is 70. Don't worry if you didn't see it there. You're going to see it in your paperwork. We were only sending the applications. I know some of you had asked for the devices in Portland. We were oversold because of Chinese New Year and because of the coronavirus has hit. It looks like we're going to start placing the orders, because some people had asked us to call them and do everything, or wanted multiple orders. So we only have 120 out in the field. Some that placed multiple orders were only able to get 1. But we're going to let you know that we'll charge after like next week, and they should deliver the second week of March. That is just what they told me. We are going to have a professional edition device. I just got the clearance on that. This is a handheld one, which is more professional. This is really for healthcare professionals, nurses, practitioners, like Dr. Debbie. This would be good for her. It is more of a premium product, but it is very medical-esque. Anyone can technically get it, but we're starting off with about 100 in the field. So please bear with us. My assistant Beto has been ill, and so we've had to kind of cover certain things. He caught that flu last week in Utah. So we are getting back with you. Let me show you all a video. Hey, Patrick, I know you're up in, you're doing a meeting up in
Hey,
Yeah, tomorrow, Roseville, right?
that's right.
All right. Well, I hope this was helpful. Hold on. One moment, folks. Let's go ahead and show that video again, please, and enjoy. Here we go.
The time it takes to view this media, your heart will beat approximately 160 times. Your body has about 6 quarts of blood. Your 5.6 liters of blood circulates through the body 3 times every minute. In one day, your blood travels a total of 12,000 miles. That's 4 times across the U.S., from coast to coast. There are 100,000 miles of blood vessels in your body. Your heart beats about 35 million times a year, equal to 2.5 billion times in a lifetime. Your heart will pump 1 million barrels of blood in a lifetime. That's enough to fill 3 super tankers. Give a tennis ball a good hard squeeze. You're using about the same amount of force your heart uses to pump blood out to the body. Even at rest, the muscles of the heart work hard, twice as hard as the leg muscles of a person sprinting. Worldwide, 17 million people are touched by heart disease each year. By 2020, 20 million will die from heart disease annually. Number 1 cause of death in the US, leading cause of death in Mexico, 4 million deaths per year in Europe, 1.4 million deaths in Russia annually, leading cause of death in China. Every 20 seconds, a person in the US has a heart attack, and every 34 seconds, a person dies from one. Many who had no prior symptoms, but sudden death. When someone dies from heart disease or stroke, that death is more than a statistic. It's someone's husband, wife, mother, father, child, friend, or neighbor. The loss is a personal tragedy. Are you tired of hearing the same old health claims? Worried about your health or of a loved one? Sick of hearing this is what you need and you'll be better for trying this product? Ready to see and hear how you can upgrade your circulation and cardiovascular health? In 1998, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was awarded for the discovery of the role nitric oxide plays in maintaining vascular health. Nitric oxide, a molecule that keeps the arteries open, permitting smooth blood flow in the artery walls.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm putting up right now contact. We're currently putting up GOpulsewave.com at routes to Pulse Vita. We are going to have announcements here a short while this month, and it's going to be under the direct of Trinant. So we're transferring that over. So appreciate everyone's patience. Please do not share this with your prospects. These are only for Trinant associates. You can reach us at 650-802-0999. We have all the forms. There was a few that had credit cards that need to be updated. We're not going to process any until we have your commitment. Everyone that had been has paid did get them. We're having the new form done. You will all be honored the $79 price. It retails between $139 and $169. That's only for Trinant associates. You can reach us at Mark at Pulse Vita. That's PULSEVIDA.com. So what we're doing is we're calling the project GOpulsewave, which will be an independent third-party site that, again, will be what's called a thought leader site, which will allow your prospects, suspects, and so forth to get more information about PulseWave, so you don't have to be experts in it. You're just basically using, talking, and demoing it. So where people do have those questions. There will also be a link there so that, and I've done many of these for the company. I have spoken to some doctors, naturopaths, chiropractors, acupuncturists that are interested in the technology. So they'll have more specific questions that I can address. So I had some questions here, but I honestly won't be able to cover all of them. But we are going to be getting eventually a Facebook page for operators only. So we have tips and information and certainly testimonials from operators, not from the associates or lifetime customers that you're creating in your networks. That they can go on Health and Wealth at Trinant on Facebook. So I am on Facebook there. Please allow me at least 24 hours. I've been very, very busy getting the rest of the new techno up and running, the new order that they've placed. So things have been really, really booming, obviously, since its rollout. Yeah, I'm not sure what the numbers ended up for the Valentine special, but this has been recorded. And again, please do not share this, ladies and gentlemen, with anybody else. This is not for them. We have to keep this a closed end community, only for Trinant, and make sure that we're always at the highest level of ethics. So happy Valentine's Day early for all of you. I hope you have healthy arteries through this year, and appreciate everyone's patience. I know many of you have organizations that you're building. Please support the local ones. Like for instance, Patrick is doing one up in Roseville with Jennifer Dowd. I live here in the Bay Area. We do meetings from time to time. I speak Spanish. I'm working with Letty here locally, and it's been fun. And she's got to meet a lot of people that have been benefiting from this product and the technology for the last couple of years. They're just new to Trinant in terms of taking the life and all the other wonderful products that we have. So with that, again, mark at pulsevita.com, 650-802-0999. And just please give me at least 24 hours to respond at this. And anyone that has put the form on GOpulsewave, we are getting the new apps out, and we look to have that out sometime next week. So you will not be left out, although we only have 200 devices coming in March. But the first ones that will be shipped will be the ones that came to the Vision Conference. One last housekeeping issue. I will be at the Fresno. I've been invited to go to the Fresno event, which will be this month on the 22nd, 23rd there in Clovis, Fresno. Really looking forward to meeting the Sings and getting to work with my dear friend Heather. Letty will be there, and a few other people will be there. So I'll be there. We'll be doing screening, but it won't be like it was in the Vision. I actually want to sit and listen to all the other speakers as well. But I will be there on hand to answer questions about techno and a little bit about the PulseWave. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Have a lovely month of February with one more extra day we have this year for leap year, and appreciate you all. Take care for now. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.